Hello, this is Matt Cannon with my thoughts of the day. I'm out here in nature, and I want to start with a quote. The chief problem in historical honesty is not outright lying. It is omission or de-emphasis of important data. The definition of important, of course, depends on one's value. And I'm reading a book right now that I haven't finished yet, but I think it warrants a mention. It's by Maria Konnikova, and it's called The Biggest Bluff. And the subtitle is How I Learned to Pay Attention, Master Myself, and Win. And the book is an amazing book. In the book, she talks about a subject that kind of lines up with what I spoke about the last time I did a recording. It's based in a Sherlock Holmes story. And if you know anything about Maria Konnikova, she wrote a book that I read. The one book I've read of her is called Mastermind, where she talks about Sherlock Holmes. So she's already kind of got this Holmesian thing about her that she talks about. So it's quite interesting. But I want to talk about this whole quote that I said about historical honesty is not outright lying, it's omission. And she tells a story about when you're sitting there at the table, it's not always what you see, it's what the other players in poker, because she's a PhD and she ended up going into poker and learning about poker. And this book, The Biggest Bluff, is all about her going into that world. And she explains it in a way that's pretty interesting. And she explains, again, using some of the Sherlock Holmes nature of it, she talks about the story of Silver Blaze. Now, if you know Sherlock Holmes, there's this story of Silver Blaze, and it has to involve this horse, this championship horse, that ends up getting stolen, apparently, and Sherlock Holmes ends up solving the case. And I won't tell you exactly what ends up the outcome of that, but I will tell you that it has to do with a dog, and the dog didn't bark. So it was this symbol of the dog not barking was more important than paying attention for the dog barking. So it was the omission that the dog didn't bark that enabled Sherlock Holmes to solve the case. In the same way, she basically says that when your opponent's actions mean, and sometimes more important, what they don't mean, it's this whole concept of omission neglect. Sometimes we give meaning to something, but we don't pay attention to what's missing. And in the whole historical thing, you have political candidates or whatever. Sometimes they'll tell you something that fits with your narrative and your bias, and it fits with what you believe, but yet they keep, in the data, they keep an important aspect that changes the whole meaning of it. So when you have this omission, it's just as important as what they say. Like a lot of times you'll see someone, just taking a politician for example, what they say becomes what they're judged by. And people will say that, you know, their continual promotion of this or that is why I'm going to judge them. Versus, what are they not saying? What is being omitted on purpose? Maybe what in the data are they basing something on this whole narrative that's omitting some key facts that change the whole meaning of that? And that's the key thing, is a lot of us, we don't pay attention to omission. We pay attention to the commission. We're paying attention to what's there, but we're not paying attention to what's not there, suspiciously missing. And it says in the story in Silver Blaze, there was a major omission that no one noticed, and yet Sherlock Holmes was able to pick up on it. So in your life, as you're making decisions, as you're going forward with things, you have to be equally concerned by what you see as well as what you don't see. Because a lot of times we base everything that we do on what we see. We base, this is what this person said, this is what this person did, and that's it. What are they not doing? This is why Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, I learned something from them that was really interesting. When they read financial statements, and this is a little secret that they share in their writings and in their systems, they don't only read from the beginning to end. They actually start in the end and they work their way to the beginning. And I heard this, it's kind of like Charlie Munger's inversion principle, is you do the opposite. The reason they do that is because businesses, when they're doing their financial statement, they know that by the time you get to the end, you already got fatigue. You're not paying as close attention. And so they put the stuff that they don't care about in the end. They put the negative stuff in the end oftentimes. Now, of course, people know that they do this and they might try to put it in the middle, but pay attention when you're working with people and you're seeing things, what is curiously omitted? Because a lot of times what's omitted means more than what you actually see, because it's a whole narrative shaping way of going about things. And Maria Konnikova, this book, The Biggest Bluff, it's crazy. I can't remember a book in recent memory that I've written so many notes on. And her book, Mastermind, where she talks about Sherlock Holmes, is incredibly good as well. And so I'm really enjoying it. I'm sure I'm going to have some more recordings on this, but she talks about the subject of omission neglect. And I just wanted to share that with you. What is being omitted? When you watch the news, pay attention. What is being omitted? What are the key facts that are being omitted? And why? Why is this being omitted? As you look at that, think about it, and you're going to start finding yourself making decisions better than most people around you. Omission neglect, it's very much overlooked, and oftentimes you have to look for what's not there, just like Sherlock Holmes did in Silver Blaze. Read that book. You can see it on YouTube or listen to it on YouTube, or just find any old Sherlock Holmes book. It's a very interesting story about there was something missing that was unusual, and by Sherlock Holmes seeing that, he was able to solve the case. I won't spoil the story completely for you, but it's worth checking out. So, omission neglect, an important principle and function to be aware of in your thinking process. This is Matt Cannon. These are my thoughts of the day. Signing out.